Has had it his way most of the fight. The only thing he hasn't been able to do is put his man away.
I believe the punch that Leonard should be using more right now is the left hook on the side of that swollen eye.
Well, he has Bonds' hands down around his waist. Bonds tries to fight back. Bonds is hurt now. Doubles up in the corner. Combinations down goes Bonds. Leonard hands over his head.
That's the right lead, which Leonard specializes in, as Ali did for so many years. And right against the ropes. Suddenly, feeling Leonard blows. Leonard with much better power than he's given credit for. Hitting it with combination upon combination. Every place in trouble.
A first knockdown in the second round. From nowhere, Leonard opened up. And look at this. Horrible.
Leonard staying right there. Measuring his spot, pounding to the body, and a right to the head. And Davey Pearl steps in, that's it.
One strong right. And back went Finch. And now Leonard's opening up, and there it is.
Surviving the punishment, but a tremendous round for the young Olympic fighter. Tremendous. And there goes our fighters. For the skills he's shown, maybe now they won't call Sugar Ray Leonard a height. There it is. He's stuck with
A quick right lead, and another chopping right, and another. And you see the wobbly leg, and down goes Finch.
If Leonard could do this to him. Now Sugar Ray is just cleaning up on him. 30 seconds left to go in the fifth round. You see Sugar Ray with the shuffle. And Santor holding on at the knees. Off balance, ready to fall to the floor. Only courage keeping him up.
Another left hand to the face of Bonds by Sugar Ray Leonard. A flicking right jab is harmless. Back the other way. 3-4 punches to the face now of Larry Bonds. Right above us once more. A right hand and another right. A left hand and Bonds goes down.
Finding a little range with the left jab now. And a right hand. Right hand staggers Tommy Hearns. Hearns in trouble again. Leonard all over him. Leonard pounding away with combinations inside. Hearns trying to grab him. Can't do it. Hearns driven into the ropes. Leonard pounds it right through the ropes. Dave
And they go down. He lost the southpaw. 10 seconds to go in the round. Leonard is waking up. There goes Finch down in the back. Just hanging on. Hold up. At 48 seconds to go.
Leonard stationary. Come on with a chance here. A big chance. Plenty of time left in round 9. Morales caught again by Leonard. Morales backs off. He's hurt. Morales is shaken up. Leonard going for it. He puts the drill. Very few.
Range punching by the champion in white. Oh, a right hand. Most fighters would have gone down. Flush on the chin of the challenger. Combinations. Oh, and so long. Timber. What a search. There's a right hand lead, followed by a left hook, and that would just knock the head off of most.
Motion. Here's the first knockout. See the left, and he left himself open for that counter right. Worst thing you could. Now here's the second. Just watch. The right lead. So well used, followed by the left, and that was it. That was simple.
We are live, Black Press Live, with the great Sugar Ray Leonard in my imitation Howard Cosell voice. At the age of 20, Sugar Ray Leonard won his first professional fight. Not only winning his first fight, but he set the stage for a collection of the most memorable fights in all of boxing history. He went on to defeat some of the greatest boxers of the modern era. And these were true contenders, true champions. Wilfred Benítez, Roberto Durán, Tommy Hearns, marvelous Marvin Hagler. During Leonard's 20-year professional career, the champ won world titles in the welterweight division, junior middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, and he was just simply the best at what he did. And in fact, I dare say he is the greatest living fighter of all time. The one and the only Sugar Ray Leonard. Thanks for joining us, Sugar Ray.
Stacey, how you doing, man? How are things going for you?
I can't complain. I got you on the other side. Listen, it's been 40 years, Ray. 40 years since Duran, and it looks like, Ray, I don't know. Are you still in Montreal because time stood still? Because you look like the same guy from 40 years ago.
You know, man, I look at those fights sometimes, and I tell you, it takes me back. I can go back so close that I can vividly, clearly see what it felt like, what I saw, what I did, what I should have done. Oh, it was an illustrious career.
Well, then let's do that, Ray. Let's go back to Montreal, because this was going to be an amazing challenge for you. It was an amazing challenge for you. The Hands of Stone, Roberto Durán, and prior to that fight, there was a lot of ugliness, a lot of from Duran's side too. I mean, he really got under your skin, it seems like it was hard to do, but he got under your skin, and you decided, Ray, to brawl with this man who never loses a brawl.
He taught me. He was a professor. I was a student. Far more experience than I had. Stronger than you. I mean, he's a lightweight. He came from a lightweight, 132. I mean, Duran was so powerful, and he punched with conviction. He hit me so many times, and I thought there was someone else in the ring. I thought it was an addition in the ring. Because I looked around and said, who else is in this ring besides the referee? But I tell you what, it taught me a big lesson that you need to keep this stable, keep this solid.
Yeah.
I want to get back at him because he cursed my wife, he cursed me, and I want to beat him up. And the only way I could beat him up was to stay toe-to-toe, which was not smart.
Yeah, and this was what folks don't realize. When you fought, many of the fights was 15 rounds, and this first fight with Duran was 15 rounds, and it was a slugfest.
Yeah, I mean, it was even more than that, Stacey. After that fight, I went back to my room, and the doctor came in there and drew blood from my ears so it wouldn't cauliflower. That was the worst pain. And even then, I contemplated retirement because I said, I can't do this, for long. I just can't do it. I mean, it was a battle. Those punches hurt.
Well, fortunately for fight fans everywhere, you didn't retire, because a few months later, you caught up with Roberto Durán in New Orleans, round 2, or fight 2, I should say. Yeah. Going into this fight, Ray, what was the mindset going into it? I know revenge is probably doesn't serve fighters well, right? If that's all you're thinking about. But what went into planning and preparation for the super fight number 2?
I took my wife to Hawaii just to get away, because she fainted at the fight that night. She fainted that night at the fight because she's never seen me get hit so violently, and I wanted to take her away and let her, just cool out. And I was I know I was down the beach running, and some of the fans say, "Hey, Sugar, you could have won that fight if you'd have boxed him." I kept hearing that over and over and over again. You should have boxed him, right? You should use your hand speed, use this and use that. So I called my business partner, Mike Trainer. I said, "Mike, I want to fight Duran." He said, "Ray, are you on vacation?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, come home. After you come home, we'll talk." I said, "No, I'm coming home tomorrow." I cut my vacation short. But I knew I could beat him. But after that physical contact with him, I didn't know if I wanted to. I didn't know if it was a mind thing, mental.
Yeah. And so you step into that ring, and we all remember how the introductions went. But something else went just before the opening bell happened, Ray. And I probably don't have to prompt you too much on it, but something happened that you knew when this happened, there was no way you were going to walk out of that ring a loser. Can you explain what that was?
Well, I was totally confident. I knew. Well, I felt that if I fight my fight, use my hand speed, use my mobility and what have you, I could beat him. But it's a whole different story once you're in that ring, in that first bell ring, and then that means you must go to work. Yeah, I mean, you really don't know. You don't know. You feel confident, but when that bell rings, you must show. And what happened, Stacey? Ray Charles sang "America the Beautiful," and so my name is Ray Charles. My mother named me after Ray Charles, and all of a sudden, when he finished singing, he walked over to me, gave me a big hug, and said, "Kick his ass." I said, "Yeah." And I mean, of all the places to meet my namesake, was in one of the most important fights, the biggest fights of my career.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And so we get the opening bell. We see you doing something different this time than the first time. We see Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Leonard, as they say, on the bike. We see you dancing. Why the change? I mean, like you said, you felt like you could have beat him in the first fight, even fighting his fight. But why did you feel the need this time to dance around Duran, dance in that ring?
You know, it would have been much harder, and I couldn't beat Duran toe to toe like that. I mean, he had hand speed, he had incredible power, tenacity, and everything. So when I was in the ring and I was moving around, and then I did that, and then I took my chin out and it came back because I was feeling comfortable. And I heard people laughing. I heard some of the fans laughing. And I did it again. Then I did this here, pow, with the other hand, and they laughed. And he just was, I think he was discombobulated. Because he was, it's like a bully. It's like a bully. Picture a bully in school. He pushes you around, then if you sock him, he's going to do one or two things. He's going to annihilate you or run away. And he did the other.
Yeah, when you mentioned too, and we all can picture that. If you saw that fight, the time you stuck your chin out, you taunted him, you did the bolo. At what point were you confident enough to do that? At what point did you realize he's mine?
It really was the first round. Because I was moving around, boxing, using the ring size, sticking my chin out, faking them, and using my hand speed, and I just felt in control. So I felt very dominant at that point, and each round I felt more and more confident and more prepared to take on what he did in Montreal to me.
Yeah, we are talking with the great Sugar Ray Leonard. This is Black Press Live. We are so glad to have the champ with us. We are talking about the second Roberto Durán fight. Believe it or not, it's been 40 years. Ray, 40 years, Ray. So you, you probably got grandkids by now, right?
I have kids, yeah, grandkids.
But so was it the 6th round or the 8th round? Remind us when he decided he had had enough. 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw him do something that no fighter, and I'm sure you probably learned this when you was a small child before you even went into the ring the first time. You never turn your back on your opponent. But Duran threw his hands up and he was walking away.
Well, I thought it was a trick. I thought that he was trying to lure me, get me closer to him. And because my brother Roger, he yelled, he said, Ray, he quit. And I looked and I said, well, and because what had happened, he did this. And what does this mean, Stacey? I mean,
I quit.
I quit. And because there was, and I understand Duran that he didn't say no mas. I didn't hear him say no mas. But when you do that, that means you don't want it anymore. But whatever the case may be, it was a bizarre result, bizarre ending. It was a shock to the boxing world, fraternity, that he did that.
Yeah.
Roberto Durán was the answer.
Yeah. And, you know, you did a wonderful special. I want to say it was a 30 for 30 with ESPN.
Yes.
On that particular fight, and you addressed that. You met with Duran because you really wanted to know why he stopped fighting.
Yeah.
Why was that so important to you, Ray? You clearly humiliated. You clearly beat this man, but why was that so important to you to get that answer from him?
Well, because people were saying, "Well, Duran quit. He this, he no mas, he this and this," and I understand what he had to deal with his fans, with boxing critics and what have you. I mean, Roberto Durán was machismo. He was the best. He was tough as nails, and for him to be looked upon as being a quitter, I really felt for him, and that's why I say, in all due respect, he said that he had cramps. Hey, I accept that. He had cramps. I take that. And that's what I said in Panama for 30 for 30. And I didn't want to go to Panama because I thought the people wouldn't like me there. It was just the opposite. It was the fans there were just the opposite.
Yeah, Ray. One of the things we always do when we have a guest on, we love to allow their fans to show their love. So I just want to run down a couple for you right quick. Brian Campbell says, Ray never got enough credit for his power. Annette Phillips logs in and says, hello, with Michelle. Good evening, everyone. Annette Phillips, David Youngblood, Kevin Zini, Steve Martin says, you are his idol. Geraldine Bridgeport, hello, Mr. Leonard. And Emilio Santana, Leonard versus Hearns was the most anticipated fight I ever wanted to see till this day, the showdown. And Emilio, that's where we going now, because, you know, 1981, September 1981 in Las Vegas, the showdown at Caesar's Palace. Who will ever forget? And Ray, 12th round, I'm going to jump around a little bit here and go to the end of the 12th round. And one of the most iconic things ever said in the ring, or in the corner anyway, was by the great Angelo Dundee. And he admonished you, Ray, that you were blowing it. How does a fighter in a championship, this was a unification bout too, in a championship bout, how do you take that when your trainer, your corner man is saying, hey, you're blowing this? You know what, Stacey, I'm glad you asked that question. It was the perfect soundbite. He said, you're blowing it, son, you're blowing it. And I'm telling you, I was exhausted. I mean, it was so hot in that ring. I threw punches in my arm. I was arm weary. But when he said that, it was like, you're blowing it, son, you're blowing it. And I just felt that electricity that he was putting out. He didn't scream. He didn't get yelling. He didn't yell. He said it the right way at the right time. And fighters know. We know when we are losing or behind on points. We're in that ring. And when he said that, I went out there, I collected myself, and I went back out there, and then I caught Tommy with the right hand, and then that was all downhill from there. But blowing it, I mean, I can hear that now. Well, you said you caught him with the right hand, Ray. If history serves us right, if memory serves me right, you hit Tommy Hearns with probably 100 punches in about 5 seconds. It was unbelievable. You talk about a response. you went out in the 13th round and you absolutely destroyed this man who had really given you fits throughout the night. What other than, was it really Angelo Dundee's inspiration? What was happening in that 13th round?
I just need that little encouragement, that little boost to let me know that what's happening, I'm seeing this. Because again, Stacey, fighters, especially veterans, we know when we're losing. We know that. We feel that. We sense that. And I knew it was close, but I also figured that he had the edge because Tommy was outboxing me at one point, and he was the aggressor at one point. It wasn't until I made the conviction of saying I'm going fight. I'm going inside. I'm going inside and take him out, and that's what happened. I became a little more dominant.
Yeah, and earlier in that fight, 6th round, something else as a fan of yours, really, I remember so well because the first 5 rounds of that fight, even I was doubting you, and then 6th round, you found, like all great fighters do, you found a weakness. Yeah. Can you tell everyone, remind everyone what that weakness is that you found and you exploited? Because we kept hearing your corner afterwards yell out to you to go after it.
It wasn't Tommy. It wasn't the fact that he had a weakness, because Tommy. I mean, he's a freak of nature with his height and reach. And 147, his power, knockout power in both hands. Tommy has the best, one of the biggest hearts. So Tommy had a whole package. I just had to use what I had, and I had speed, and I had power. And when I caught him with the left hook, and I said, well, now it's my turn. But I tell you, it was back and forth. It was like back and forth, back and forth. I was so exhausted. I've never been so exhausted in a fight like that. And after the fight, I went back to my room, man, and I stayed and I just slept all night and all morning. I was exhausted. It took everything out of me to beat a guy like Tommy Hearns. Yeah. I mean, he was at that level.
Yeah, and you hit him with a body shot that, from that point, that 6th round, he dropped his I believe it was his left hand or one of his hands anyway. He dropped it, and you had him ready to go a couple of times between the 6th and the 9th round, and I kept hearing your corner, body Ray. Yeah. They wanted you to attack that weakness, that body, and as you articulated already, by the 12th round, you had gotten a bit winded, a little tired.
Yes, exactly. I was exhausted. I mean, that's when you call upon that interior intestinal fortitude. That's when you call upon that little thing that allow that person to lift the car of his trapped child. It's that heart.
Yeah. I recall Muhammad Ali before that fight. Everybody was weighing in, and of course, what was it? Over 23,000 saw it live, right, at Caesar's Palace, and Muhammad Ali said, Hearns is a puncher, and he's great, but he called you at that stage in your career. He said you were a legend, and coming from the greatest, and I know that you patterned at least some of your career after Ali. But coming from Ali, what did that mean to you? And did that give you any more incentive?
Incentive? I mean, that's an understatement. I mean, Muhammad Ali was my idol. He was my friend. And I recall so clearly when I walked into the ring that night. I'm walking around the ring, and I'm gazing out into the audience. And I said, all right, so now I got to fight Tommy Hearns. I said, who in this arena can beat Tommy Hearns? And I looked down, and who did I see? I saw Muhammad Ali. So if you go back and watch the first round of the fight, you'll see that I'm moving like Muhammad Ali, because Ali was about this and heart.
Yeah. And Ray, a few months after the Tommy Hearns fight, I remember opening up a newspaper, and the front page of the sports section, Leonard Ray Leonard is retiring from boxing. Shocked everyone. And then we read the story, and we learned that you had a detached retina. Can you go back there for a moment? It must have been really scary. And how are you doing now? How's that? Has that affected you at all later in life?
Well, I retired in I retired many times, and 1982. But Dr. Ron Michaels, he's my ophthalmologist. He said, he did the surgery. He said, Ray, you know what? If you want to fight again, you can fight again, because now with technology, your left eye is just as strong as your right eye. But people really were concerned about me. I mean, the fans and my family members, they didn't want me to take that chance of possibly going blind. I mean, could that have happened? I mean, who knows? Who knows? But the chances were, from what my doctor said, that my left eye would be just as strong as my right eye. Knock on wood, I have had no problems whatsoever. I get checked up every year or so. But, you know, I didn't know what the hell a detached retina was anyway, by the way. I didn't know, you know. But looking back in retrospect, I mean, that's who I was. I mean, I wanted to fight. I was in my 20s. I was in the prime of my career, and I wanted to fight those guys like Hagler and the other great fighters, champions. And it wasn't about the money at that point. It was about my legacy of being a fighter, being a champion.
Yeah. And so you leave the sport for a little while, but you never really left. Your heart never left it, that's for sure. But speaking of that heart, Ray, can it get you in trouble sometimes? Because you picked quite a fight with quite, you mentioned a bully. I don't want to call Marvin Hagler a bully, but the biggest guy on the block. You decide, you know what? I'm going to take him on. What was in that process? I know that you had watched him and Tommy Hearns give perhaps the greatest 3 rounds in boxing history. And did you see something there? Because that seems like it would have frightened many people to say, you know what, there's no way I'm touching this guy.
But that, you know, Stacey, that's what happened. I was doing commentary for HBO, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this fight, and it was the most violent 3 rounds I've ever seen. And I said, well, no, I'm not going back. I'm not coming back. No, I said, no, I'm not coming back. And then his second fight, Hagler's second fight, following fight, and John the Beast Mugabe was his name. And this guy's a slugger, big puncher, but just a slugger. And he was outboxing Hagler during that second fight. And I said, I can beat this guy. I can beat Hagler. And that's what happened. That's what drew me to say I'm gonna fight again. And I called my partner, my business partner, Mike Train. I said, Mike, I'm on to fight Hagler. He said, Ray, have you been drinking? I said, yeah, but that doesn't. I had a couple beers, whatever. And when I told my brothers, and they couldn't believe I was going to fight Hagler, or he even thought about it. Stacey even thought about fighting Hagler. He said, Ray, who's your tune-up? I said, no one. He said, no, who's your tune-up? I said, Hagler. He said, no, who's your tune-up? I said, Hagler's my tune-up. Because with me, I fought this guy named Kevin Howard prior to fighting Hagler, and he knocked me down. And he wasn't considered a great fighter, Kevin Howard, but he got in shape for that fight. And people thought, even back then, I was going on the wrong side of the street, because I was doing cocaine, I was drinking heavily. Because to be honest with you, Stacey, I will say I was not myself anymore. I wanted to fight, man. I wanted to fight, and the only thing that calmed me down was alcohol and drugs. That was another reason, and one of the main reasons why my friends and my business partners and everyone didn't want me to come back, because they know the other side of me.
Right. And so you take this fight, and everybody, there was not a soul. And if someone tells you different, they're not being honest, right? But not a soul in boxing thought not only were you going to lose, but there was fears for your life.
All right,
But
so
you walked into that ring.
tell me what you thought.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I was only hoping that you did make it out alive.
So everyone did. And by the way, when I was training, because I trained for like a year, almost a year and a half for that fight, and I got hit by a sparring partner and almost knocked out 5 days before the fight in Vegas, and driving back to my hotel. No one said a word because they all thought I was getting knocked out, and because I was gonna fight him toe to toe, which would be. I mean, I have memories. I have memories I can recount. I can make them come back to life. I can smell Roberto Duran's breath. That's how close he was to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
I know you don't want to do too much of that, though, right, Ray? But you said thinking about going toe to toe with Marvin Hagler, and I have to say, I was a Hagler fan too. I just was a bigger Sugar Ray fan, just everyone to know. But the 9th round, and I don't want to really skip over this fight, but the other rounds, but the 9th round in my book is when you really clinched that fight. And it's not that you won the 9th round. Mm-hmm. Some people say you didn't win the 9th round or whatever, but you stood toe to toe. And I remember whoever was announcing that fight, it says, Ray is fighting off the ropes. He's fighting off the ropes. And you started going toe to toe with marvelous Marvin Hagler. And all I can think of, and I don't know about you, was Hagler Hearns and how that turned out for Tommy Hearns. And there you were. What inspired? What got into you, Ray?
This whole fight was based upon me getting to Hagler's head. And real quickly, when we announced that I was going to fight Hagler, I wanted to beat him more mentally. So after the press conferences, before the press conference would end, I would say, guys, this is such a shame that you guys don't give Hagler the respect of a boxer. You just see him as a slugger. Hagler's a very good boxer and this and that. And I kept planting that seed. You're a good boxer, you're a good boxer, you're a good boxer. And what Hagler said at the last press conference, we did about 50 press conferences, but the last press conference, he said, I may surprise all of you. I may outbox Ray. I said, I got him. And if you go back and watch the fight, the first round, Hagler came out, Hagler southpaw, which leads with right, but he came out this way. And he's ambidextrous, but he came out left-handed, which gave me a chance to settle down because all of a sudden, I punch, I said, it still works. And all of a sudden, I was in control.
Yeah. And, Hagler, of course, believed that he won that fight. I was talking to you off camera and telling you about the one judge who had a lot of people thought he was drinking 10-2 in your favor. But I remember, as I said to you off camera, I actually scored it the same way, and I wasn't drinking. So, but did you think, Ray, that it was not that it was easy, but did you think that you would have a more difficult time beating Marvin Hagler than what happened?
Stacey, I may not look like it, but I'm gonna tell you something. Muhammad Ali said to me one day, he said, Ray, when I fought Joe Frazier, it was the closest thing to death. I'm like, I didn't understand that. When I fought Hagler, when I fought Hearns, Duran, the first fight, Benítez, Marcos Geraldo, those fights were so close to death to me because you hang. You can barely breathe. Your legs are gone. You can barely hold your arms up, and that's when you reach. That's when I say you reach down and create that. Oh man, you're bringing back so many memories, Stacey.
Well, one of the complaints Hagler had before we close out the discussion on Hagler and move on to other greatness. But one of the complaints he had afterwards was that he said, Ray even said to me, "You beat me, Marvin." And when you look at the fight, the video of the fight, at the end, you do go up and say something to Marvin Hagler. And it, go ahead.
You know what I said to him? I said, "You're still a champ to me. You're still a champ to me." Did I think I won the fight? I didn't know. It was like close, right? But it's so subjective because they say, well, Ray Hagler was aggressive. Well, but was it effective aggressiveness? Was it effective? And also, before the first bell rung, I told one of my guys, I said, listen to me. Before the bell rings, yell 30 seconds. And what I would do, I would throw a lot of punches. So that's the last thing the judge remembered. Is it wrong? Hey, it worked for me.
Well, it was tantamount to, although you didn't knock Hagler out, but I always put it tantamount to Ali Foreman back in Africa in '74, because Ali really got into Foreman's head. He really, and Foreman was the beast.
Yeah.
Just like Hagler was the beast.
Yeah. Put it this way. When you judge a fight like that or score a fight like that, whether it's Ali, Frazier, Ali, George Foreman, me, and Hagler or Hearns, it's so subjective because it depends on how you see the fight. Like what is it effective? I mean, you know what? Hagler has his fans, and rightfully so, they have the right to say Hagler won that fight because he's a champion. And back in the day, they used to say you got to knock a champion down or out or something like to win the fight. But I love Marvin. He may not think so. I respect him. I give him his props, and he deserved everything he gets and more.
Yeah. I don't want to again neglect the many fans who are tuning in. Emilio Santana, going back to the Hearns fight, he says, "I begged my dad for $20 to see that fight on closed circuit TV. I was 12." Darren Brown says it was a left hook to the body that did it. Talking about again that 6th round with Tommy Hearns and Mary Welton. Sugar works out every day, she says. I guess it shows, Ray. Oh, Ray, I was in Madison Square Garden the night that I told everybody, I said, if you ever watch the movie Rocky, and when at the end of Rocky 1, and he grabs the microphone and calls for Adrian or whatever, I said, Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray had his Adrian moment. He was fighting Terry Norris, and it went the distance.
I can't hear.
He lost the fight, and at the I'm sorry. Yeah. See, this is the only loss that I'm bringing up.
It's okay, Stacey.
Because I was there, and you grabbed that microphone in Madison Square Garden at the end, and you really gave Terry Norris his props, and I felt so bad because I was with a friend and we paid to see you win. So this was what, 91, I believe, 92.
It was too long. Terry Norris was an incredible fighter, champion. And I knew I was in trouble because when the bell rung, he threw a jab and pow, I was like, I said, what the hell? And he just beat me up. He was stronger, he was younger, he was more just anxious, and he did a good job.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'll tell you one more loss, and then we'll get back to something else. But the other loss that disappointed me greatly, Ray, and this was, you would probably acknowledge that this was way after Father Time, right? This was Hector Camacho.
Camacho, yes.
And that was one fight that I said, man, if you was going to lose any fight, don't let it be that one. What happened, Ray? You just didn't have no legs at all.
I had no legs, without making any excuses. I mean, I pulled my calf or something, but I don't make excuses. I win or I lose. And Camacho, and I love Hector. I love Hector, man. And we were friends. I mean, he didn't treat me like a friend, but yeah, he just was dominant. He totally dominated me. Yeah. I trained hard though. I trained for that fight. I trained extremely hard for that fight. Just it was one of those nights.
Well, you know, would you agree that you was just past your prime?
It's hard for me to say that.
Oh, please say yes. Don't make it worse for me, Ray.
I was. You know what? And I considered going back and fighting just a nobody, and so I would not leave the ring being knocked out. But you know what? I had so much love and support from my family and friends and fans that I said to myself, you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay. You know, and that's when you show a little bit of humility. I mean, I've been through some big wars and big fights. It was time. It was time. I was pushing the envelope.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of father time and pushing the envelope, there's growing expectation that Mike Tyson will fight again. You, of course, had a front row seat to his great years and not so great times that Mike Tyson had in that ring. He's well past what you and Ali also spoke of father time. Given that he has to make his own decision and it looks like he will fight, what advice would you offer him if he asks you?
Let me tell you something. Mike doesn't need any advice. I mean, he knows fully well. He's been a pro for a long time and he's been dominant. He knows exactly what he has left. Because no one could tell me what made sense. I mean, what I saw, it's like me coming back for Hagler. I came back because I felt I could win. And I believed I could win. Mike Tyson feels the same way. He feels the same way. He doesn't need advice.
Yeah, yeah. And like Ali, Tyson, he had a couple of years taken off of his career. I mean, Ali's situation was the draft, and Mike Tyson's situation was that he was in prison. And so we often wonder, taking off that time, Ray, Ali and Tyson, it must have had a great effect, especially for a boxer.
Inactivity for any fighter is poison. I mean, I took off from my eye injury, for 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, it's a killer, inactivity. But we all have that one last fight in us. We all possess that one last fight. And whether it's against a top-notch fighter or just a regular guy or whatever the case may be, we all possess that one last fight that we shine. And you know, that moment shined for me against Hagler, and then I kept pushing the envelope, trying to go against Marcus Geraldo, this guy, that guy, Donnie Lalonde. I kept pushing the envelope, because I want to win. I want to win. I want to do it. Yeah. But you know what? Again, do I have any regrets about my career? Not at all, because I'm the man I am today because of what I've been through.
Yeah. One of the fans are asking, and I saw it pop up. I forget who asked the question, so forgive me. But why did you never fight Aaron Pryor, the Hawk?
That's a question that's been asked for years. I would have thought. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why it didn't happen. I swear, I don't know why it didn't happen, because I never turned anyone down. I mean, there's been reports, there's been things that said, well, Ray didn't want to fight him, or they want to fight guys. If I fought Hearns and Hagler and Duran and that, I wasn't afraid to fight anyone. It just never came to fruition.
Yeah. And, you know, sports, Ray, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, boxing, has been the great healer. Anytime, especially in America, anytime that there's been some sort of, we've been in a pandemic, as you and I talked about earlier, prior to going on the air here, quarantine, right? And then, of course, there's been these protests and uprisings and things of that nature. How important do you see someone getting back into the ring, or the NBA starting up again, or Major League Baseball?
You know, sports, man, it's like boxing. You know, boxing is really indeed a poor man's sport. Boxing saved my life. Boxing gave me an opportunity to provide for my mother and my parents, I should say, help my siblings out, help my friends out, and do good for the community. You know, again, I'm redundant with this, but I'm a blessed man. But sports that we're talking now, Stacey, all these years later, we're talking.
Yeah. You go back, you just mentioned about what it did for you and your family. And I know that you turned pro in part, maybe even in large part, to support your family because of some financial difficulties.
Yes, I won the Olympics back in 1976. I came home with the intentions of going to the University of Maryland because I wanted to further my education and get a good job. I got home. I had no intentions of turning professional because I've heard horrible stories about fighters being taken advantage of financially. So I got home and my father went into a coma. We had no money. My mom's crying, my siblings crying, I'm crying. And I asked my mentor, Jenks Morton, I said, Jenks, how do I make fast money? He said, turn pro. I didn't give it a second thought, Stacey. I turned pro, but I had good people around me, like Mike Trainer. I had very, very good people around me, and I promoted myself from day one. And I made the right decision to take care of my parents before, like my father passed away a couple years ago. And my mom is still she's a feisty 91-year-old. So, life was challenging, scary, but life is beautiful. Life is what you make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting too. You mentioned too about knowing that fighters have been taken advantage of. You made a lot of money, Ray, in your career, and that's because of your greatness, really. But what advice would you give these young fighters today when it comes to handling their money? Because it seems like you've done well. You have foundations, and which is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about too. You're doing a lot of great work.
Well, there is no one way of being successful and maintaining success. You just gotta, again, I said it before, humble, humility, and when you do win, and when you do accomplish things financially or whatever the case may be, you reciprocate. You try to help others out. I'm not saying just give money like that. I mean, just give them your time, because time is valuable. I pray every day. I used to pray before the fight. I didn't pray to win. I prayed no one got hurt. I prayed no one got hurt. So, you know, my mother and father always said, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget where you came from. And that has stuck with me and for so long, and even now.
One of the fans was writing about the Contender, Ray, asking, will there be another one? They really, the show is inspired a lot of people, is what this individual is saying.
I love that show. I love the Contender, and in the process now working on another show similar to that. I can't say, I'm not at liberty to say. Just keep it going.
Ray is leaving us with a tease. And he's teasing us here. It's just not right. Ray, you mentioned Muhammad Ali being your idol. When you first met Ali, what was that like?
Oh man, I know the first time I met Muhammad Ali, it was in passing quickly and everything, but he always had time for me. And I went to his home. I mean, he was my idol. I mean, he was bigger than boxing. He gave me so much inspiration, and I remember he always told me, he said, you know, Ray, sign your own checks and this. He always gave me knowledge. He always gave me advice, and you know what? And that's why I'm here today talking to you.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali.
We appreciate that. We are talking again with the great Sugar Ray Leonard. Ray, UFC, that Ultimate Fighting has emerged as more popular even than boxing. Why do you think that is? And will boxing ever? Do you foresee boxing ever returning to its glory days, if you will?
Glory days. Boxing will always survive. Boxing takes black eyes, but it will always survive. And you know, you have incredible fighters. Floyd Mayweather Jr. When I met Floyd, I don't know, he's probably like 18, 19, maybe 20. And we were on a plane together, and I said, "You're going to be something special one day, young man." I said, "You're going to be special one day." And I mean, you know, by the way, I fought his father.
Yeah, you did. I was going to say that.
I beat him up. Anyway.
Wow.
I saw something special in Floyd. I always watched him and always like looked at him like, here's a guy who's going to shine, and he's done that.
Yeah. Yeah, undefeated, right?
Undefeated, yeah.
You is there any regrets, Ray? You mentioned a couple of fights. Well, I mentioned a couple of fights you lost. I don't think you were going there, but any regrets that you did have to suffer a couple of maybe some unnecessary losses? You
know, that's a very good question too, Stacey. But I don't. You know, I want to say, you know, the ego in me want to say, yeah, I regret coming back against Camacho. I regret coming against Terry Norris, and you know, that kind of thing. But I'm not. I'm not. You know, if there's one fight that I think has a chance of coming to fruition, is a fight with you. Well,
listen, call my people, okay? I won't be so in a rush, though. I will tell you that much. It'll be a long negotiation. Your grandchildren will have kids by that time. I'm gonna tell you right now. But I will take a down payment for it, though.
Yeah.
We'll get Don King or somebody on that.
We do it ourselves.
Yeah, well, yeah. Ray, what projects are you working on now, other than the one you can't tell us about? And tell us a little bit about. I know you do a lot of charity work. Can you talk a little bit about that in our closing moments?
Yeah, my wife and I started the Sugar Ray Leonard Foundation, and what it is, we raise awareness and raise funds for JDRF and for the Sugar Ray Leonard Foundation, Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. It's all about raising awareness and raising funds that goes towards research to one day knock out diabetes. My father had diabetes. Some of my friends, either they or their kids are diabetic. You know, again, I like to reciprocate. I like to give back, and using my name to some degree or contacts or whatever, I just feel so honored and responsible to give back.
Yeah. And someone just asked your thoughts on Tyson Fury. Is that on Tyson Fury?
Tyson Fury is he's a monster here. I mean, there's a lot of fighters and fights out there that they're going to shine. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be huge. I mean,
who is?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ray. Who is Sugar Ray Leonard today?
You know, it's so funny, and it gets to me sometimes because I am nothing like I was in the ring. Like I'm non-confrontational. I'm shy, but I'm sociable, if that makes any sense. You know, I smile, but I just don't let the smile fool you because I can still throw down. But not in the ring. I don't want to do that because, you know, I won't get paid. I just feel so blessed. I feel so blessed of where I am, and time goes by so quick. I know that's why time is so valuable now, because, you know, I remember when I was 40 years old, my wife threw a big party for me, and that now I'm 64 years old. I turned 64 May 17th. it's like, wow, it's like now every month, a month is like a week, a year is like a month. It's so amazing. But then again, you know, doesn't bother me whatsoever. I do the same things that I used to do, maybe not as fast, but I do the same. I play a lot of tennis. I try to maintain. I try to stimulate my body, my mind. Life is good. I want our kids to be as profitable and as knowledgeable and with humility, and have the kids give back. I mean, life is good. Life is what you make it.
Yeah. Ray, what would that gate be like, you and I?
It would be huge. I mean, I think that it'd be on Zoom. See, my name is Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Sugar Ray. But what will your name? What will your ring name be?
Well, see, Ray, I'm going to tell you something. Huh?
It can't be Sugar.
Well, see, I had this, you know, my oldest brother's watching, right? And he's about your age, and he used to call me Sugar Bear. So you'd have Sugar Bear versus Sugar Ray.
That's not going to make. Well, see, then I have to knock you out early.
Okay. So how you know, Ali carried what was it, Ernie Terrell, I think, you know, and so how long would you carry me?
How much time you have?
No, Ray, I think I can do a couple of rounds, but if I can't dispatch of you within 2, then you know, I'm dead meat.
You're going crazy here. How old are you?
52, Ray.
What?
52.
Let's talk, okay?
Ray, you call, you're gonna get a voicemail that says in a different language, he don't live here.
Someone said, who was my hardest puncher?
Yes.
Douglas. Roberto Durán, the first fight, hit me so hard. I mean, I thought it was someone else in the ring. Tommy never hurt me in the first fight, but the second fight he knocked me down a couple of times and he hit me hard. Marcos Geraldo, Donnie Lalonde. I mean, there was my second professional fight, Willie Fireball Rodriguez in Baltimore, hit me, hurt me. I mean, wow, it was Internal Revenue hit me hard.
Ray, were you ever surprised in the other way that you thought somebody was going to be a lot tougher in the ring, and you got in the ring with them and it was almost a cakewalk?
That occurs because Andy the Hawk Price was a fight that most boxing authorities thought I was moving too fast, because he was a very good fighter, one of the top contenders, and I stopped him in the first round because I caught him in the first round. But yeah, there were fighters that were quite dominant.
Did you ever feel Ray, did you ever feel compelled to apologize to Davey Boy Green? I mean, because the way you beat him like he stole something, and then, I mean, come on.
And he's one of my best friends, David. You know what happened? Because in the ring, I mean, I couldn't get up for the fight because I was such a heavy favorite. And when I got into the ring, I was concerned because I didn't have that, I don't know, that drive. He wasn't, because I was considered such a heavy favorite. But what happened in that ring, just before the bell rung, he growled at me. Oh, and it made me mad. So it was just enough anger that made me, I call it tunnel vision, focus. And I kept tunnel vision, and I caught him. You remember that? You remember that?
Absolutely. Like I said, you owe somebody in his family an apology.
That was one of my early on best fights. Yeah.
And I know we only got a couple of minutes left, but Ray, I watched, and I'm sure you obviously watched, and everybody watched, Ray Mancini and Dooku Kim.
Oh my!
And,
yeah.
What did that do for the sport? What did that do to you as a fighter? And for those who don't know what we're talking about, This was a situation where Ray Mancini fought Dooku Kim. It was looking to be a great fight, but Dooku Kim suffered injuries in that fight that led to his death. What did that do to you as a fighter? You were in your prime. You were the champ.
It was, I could not comprehend what had taken place. When he was hit, and Dooku Kim took a lot of shots, and he threw his own shots too. And when the fight was stopped because he was gone, he was knocked out, and to hear that he passed away, it's hard to describe. It's hard for me to articulate because I didn't see myself. I never saw myself experiencing anything like that. But things do happen. They can happen. Wow, man! You see, I'm lost for words. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take myself back to that moment. Again, I called that fight for HBO, and it was a weird thing. The next morning, finding out that he passed away. It took a lot.
Wow.
But yeah. It was a lot.
Even as a spectator, it was hard to see that. I got to ask you this other question, Ray. Somebody just asked, and it's a great question. Wilfred Benítez, why no rematch? Emilio Santana asked.
No. Wilfred was champion at tender age of 17. He was that good. And when we fought, I had to use every ounce of my heart, of my talent, the stamina. Because it ended in the 15th round. I was so exhausted. In fact, I went to the hospital that night for dehydration. It was because I wanted a little bit more than he did. And then I saw him a month or 2 years, a year later, in Puerto Rico, and I went to visit him because I heard he was sick. I went to see him at the hospital and with his mother. And I remember walking into the hospital, and I saw him in a wheelchair. And then for some reason, they put on the Fight I'll Fight. And he sat and watched. He was very, very quiet. And he touched me. He said, "I didn't train for this fight." I said, "Thank you." He was that talented. He was amazing, just amazing, a technician, boxing technician. Yeah.
You're right. He was 17 when he won the title. He was something else. That fight was amazing because it was in the it was a weird in the sense that you knocked him out just almost before the bell rang to end the fight.
Yeah, I threw so many punches and I missed so many punches. Really, that fight there took me to the limit, just like with Tommy Hearns, like Hagler and Duran. It took me to the limit. Wow, he was just one of the top-notch guys. He's not mentioned in the top four, but he's not mentioned with Hagler and me and Duran and Tommy Hearns because he never beat any of us. But he was a chess player. Yeah, he was like a chess player.
Yeah, he certainly was great. And Ray, we have taken you to the limit too. Thank you so much, champ, for joining us, spending even a little bit more than an hour. We went over time, but you know what? You're the champ. You're always the champ. We appreciate you. The great Sugar Ray Leonard, thanks for joining us. You are watching Black Press Live. We'll see you next week. Stay safe and stay well.
All right. Don't forget.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.